Hey everybody, we're here live. It's just me, Cash. Tram is have to work tonight, so you have to deal with me. Sorry. It's been a while since I've been the only one here, so it's going to be interesting.
Okay, that's fine.
We're here to talk roller derby, and it's like the only bad thing is I can't see the messages that go on the
right.
on the
right.
You know, but I know that hopefully Tram's mom's watching.
Does that happen a lot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I play weird stuff. There's filler music.
That's awesome.
Very bizarre.
How long are the commercial breaks?
I don't know. I usually make them while the music's playing, so they're about a minute and a half.
That's
maybe.
fine. Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like they're not really commercials; they're really like promos we run just so that we can change up a little bit.
Sure.
We don't really have to take them at all if we
that's
didn't
fine.
want to, but it's like nice to get up and change the pace. So this is a community station, which is means that anybody can have a show and everybody does have a show.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there's all
yeah.
different kinds.
Yep.
Comedians, all sorts of things. What do I start the show with today? Who's a good ID? I got a whole list of them here.
Hi, this is the Cash Man from Derby Rocz. If you enjoy our show or any other on WRFZ, please donate to our Patreon account. Simply go on our website, RochesterFreeRadio.com, and click the big orange button. If all of our great listeners gave just a couple bucks a month, it would help us keep the music and talk flowing. We thank you for your support for 106.3 FM.
This is Rochester Free Radio, WRFZ.
I'm going to actually talk to you in this first segment too, but
Okay.
I won't ask any of the
That's fine.
questions.
This is Moose from Castle Bay. You're listening to Derby Rocks.
Welcome to Derby Rocks. Hey, it's another Friday night. It's me, Cash. How you doing? I'm joined here by Dred Hockey from Rock City Roller Derby, Boston, Roller Derby, all over the place. And we're going to have a big interview in the next segment. But thank you for coming in today.
Good evening, Cash.
I got to figure out which microphone you're on.
All right, how
there
about
you
now?
are. You're on the blue one. Okay.
Excellent.
Usually takes me a second or two to figure that out. Hey, welcome. Mr. Schramm, Chris Schramm, number 69 from the Flower City Fear, has to work tonight, and we just couldn't find the time to schedule a taping or anything, so it's just going to be us two tonight, and it's Derby Rocks. It's going to take you back in the Wayback Machine, because there was a time when it was me who started every show. It was like probably about, 9 years ago or something like that, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. But we're here to talk roller derby, and there's a lot going on. In fact, there's a lot going on right now in Denver, and our friends are out there. MRDA's got a tournament going on, which is very, very cool. And, like we were talking in the last few weeks, man, there's just so much derby going on. It's going on in every direction. You think you get it all. I do research before the show. I'm trying to find out what's going on. And then I'm always dumbfounded. As soon as I get out, I'll have like 4 messages about games going on, tomorrow that I had no idea were happening. There's just a lot of derby going on and all over the place, which is great. This is it's become healthy. It's made its way through the COVID years, and now it's like I think we're like back to where it's all the time. Do you get to feel that too?
Oh yeah. I'll be in Salt City tomorrow, Syracuse, and then Rock City I think has an away game on the 10th. There's derby every weekend now.
Yeah, down in Elmira.
Yep.
That's it. So it's very cool. So, like we usually do, and I will do it. We will start with our weeks, and I really, it's like just because I'm the only one here, I always feel like I have very little derby in my life during the week, and so I'll make it quick for you folks, and then we'll come back and talk with Dred, and then I've got a ton of news though. But we've got some cool stuff coming up in the next few weeks. We have, including the Undead tournament going down in Pittsburgh. That's the same weekend, unfortunately, as Rock City Roller Derby's home opener, May 17th, which is plates and skates. We'll talk a lot about that. Like we're going to have Hader on, I believe, the day before that, and talk a little bit about what it's like to wear a plate as an adornment to you, what you're wearing that day. Because there's a chance it could happen. There's a contest going on.
Oh, I think I saw something about that on Facebook. Actually.
Yeah, there's a contest going on, and so we will get to that, but that won't be today. Today I'm gonna briefly talk about my week, and then we're gonna jump back into break, come back. I don't know if anybody's in the chat room. I can see that there's somebody, but it's like, unfortunately, my phone is the one that we use for that, so I have no idea how many people are in there. But hello, and hopefully Mama Schramm's in there. And don't worry, Mr. Chris Schramm will be back next week. You're just gonna have to tolerate me for a show, and I will try to make Dredd talk as much as he can, and I will talk as little as I can. So, but I will mention some things I did this week very quickly. I had 4 straight nights of work this week. Well, not 3 straight nights a week, and then I went on Thursday and saw the new Thunderbolts movie, because I'm a big nerd that way, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, so it was nice to get out and not have to work. But I call sports from the high school my office is in. And so we had 2 flag football games this week, and it was a lot of fun doing those. It's always interesting because, it's like I pick like these fringe sports. I'm like, I don't do like the normal ones. I don't do baseball or football. I pick like roller derby and flag football. So
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. And it's really cool because it's like, man, they're so into it and it's so competitive. So, but I did have a lot of that going on. The weather here in town, it's been pretty nice. Off and on, it's like we've had these torrential rain showers out of nowhere, and then it turned nice, and it's been like like today, I think it was like 70 when I got here, so it's very warm. It's beautiful out, but it's like, we had snow in the middle of last week, and now I think that's the last time we're going to see it. I am not going to take responsibility for any more snow in our town by taking my snow brush out of my car.
Yeah, we're basically in the season where you've got like a week and a half gap between when you have the heat on and when you have the AC on.
Yeah,
basically.
it's true. And it's like I hear my heat go on still. And it's like, do I really need that?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's been, kind of chilly. The last couple of nights, it's gotten, like 2 nights ago, it definitely was in the 40s. So it's like 40s. I know we're complaining, and I know there's probably people down in Tampa who are like, oh, you think that's bad? It's cooking down here already, and then there's people in Vegas and everything. So, but we, like I always say, we're Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde weather here in the Rochester area, because we still, I remember a few years ago we had snow on Mother's Day, so things like that can happen. So there's your weather update. If you got your bingo card out, you can check off those things that we get to. We also. I also want to mention that there is an MRDA tournament going. What's the tournament called again?
Altitude Adjuster is the tournament that's happening in Denver. I think there are both MRDA and WFTDA games.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So I was like, I brought Facebook up on my machine at work, and there was an MRDA game going on, and it's like, well, you don't have to sell me anymore. I'll just keep it going in the background while I'm doing other things. So it was fun seeing it. I've never seen the other team that was playing in Denver today, but. It was a lot of fun. It was neat, and I didn't get to hear any of it though. And I kind of I love to hear other people's announcing. They do 100 times better than me. And I usually steal something from everybody, so it's like I could not hear any of the announcing. But there's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Dredd about. I don't know, a lot of things that, all the questions that we asked that Dredd, you were on once before.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago. I think that was 2016, 2017, something like that.
Yeah, it was. Right after Farrah and Shotgun's twins were born.
Correct. Yeah, they were teeny. We were Harlow and I were in their living room, and we each had a baby, and we're doing the show.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. And that's we don't do that often, like record in someone's living room, but that's where we did.
Yeah, those twins are about as tall as I am now.
Are they? Holy cow! I know they've gotten big. I've seen pictures. So I haven't seen them in a while though. But it's the fun times. That was I loved it when we used to back in the early days of the show I've done it with Schramm as well as we recorded episodes while we're driving. I have like a little microphone that's a multi-directional
Sound
microphone.
like the safest way to record a show.
No, we're looking straight at it. But I have a multi-directional microphone that I put between us, and I would just plug it right into my phone, and I could record a whole episode.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they sound pretty good. We did it coming back from ECDX. Hader, Farrah Fair and shocking. We were driving back from ECBX and we recorded an episode to talk about what we just gone through and everything. I think you get it while refreshing the mind.
What better way to spend a 4-hour drive?
I think we did one too also when we were driving to Queen City. We went to a Rocz City Queen City game. We were driving between Rochester and Queen City, and I think we taped one there too. So yeah, it's like you never know where we are. Most of the time we're in the studio, or if you guys follow the show, we do the I do it from my living room when we record Zoom style. So it's like, because I see my dog poking his head in all the time. So, but on that note, we're going to go to break, come back in a little bit, talk with Dred about the history of Dred in roller derby and more. So you're listening to Derby Rocks on 106.3 FM WRFZ. We'll be back right after this. All right.
Cool.
Welcome back to Derby Rocks. Cash here. Yes, we are Schramless, but man, he wishes he could be here. He really does. I'm kicking myself now that I didn't record something with him, at least doing his week, because that's usually our first segment anyways. But I'm here with Dred Hockley from Rock City Roller Derby, Boston Roller Derby, and a bunch of other places. Dred, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah,
so you are. It's nice to have you back. I mean, we do kind of work together on occasion when we're doing like stuff with roller derby here in town. So it's always
pretty regularly.
Yeah, I think so. So it's always good to have you and stuff like that. So one thing we always do, and like you mentioned before we went to break, that you were on a long time ago, but it's like I don't think there's a lot of people out there who are new listeners since then. And it's like, so how did you stumble upon this brand sport of roller derby? How did it come into your life?
Yeah, man. So I started watching roller derby in about 2008, 2009, and that's when I was living in Ithaca at the time. And this is sort of the post Whippet boom.
Oh, sure.
When everybody was going out and watching roller derby. So we were living in Ithaca, we would go down to Cass Park, the outdoor hockey rink there.
The half in, half out.
Uh-huh.
I love that place.
It's a great venue, man. That venue is awesome. That place still has a special place in my heart.
I remember being in there when it was 90 out once, and it was it was tough.
Oh, for sure.
We did a TV show there.
Well, the lake is right there. You get all that humidity coming off of there,
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. But it's still beautiful.
Sure. So that was around, like I said, 2008, 2009. So about 2 years later, my wife started skating for Ithaca, right? So I wasn't involved yet, but was watching roller derby, sort of understanding the structure of the game. And then for anybody who's familiar with the academic two-body problem, in 2013, I moved to San Diego to take a job out there. And my wife was living in Thunder Bay, Ontario, north of Minnesota.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was up there playing, and I in San Diego, you can do outdoor stuff 365 days a year. It's great.
A lot of teams, that's where they practice. That's where they, which is good because you can't do that here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm out there looking for something to do, and if you understand the reference that my derby name is, you'll know that I was a big football fan at that time. Dred Hockley's a play on Ed Hockley, the long time now retired NFL referee. But so I was looking to actually get into football officiating, believe it or not.
Wow.
And so I started looking into that. But again, because of our personal situation, my wife's a professor. We never really knew when we were going to need to move, in July and August. So I couldn't commit to that year-long, that calendar year commitment to be a football official. So eventually she was just like, hey, why don't you referee roller derby? I was like, that's a great idea. So luckily the league that she skated with in town, SoCal Derby, the founders of that league were Trish and Ivana, who run RollerCon and who own Sin City Skates at that time. So the shop was just downtown. So just walked in and said, hey, I want to officiate. Let's help me pick out the gear that I need. And they welcomed me in, and so I learned to skate with SoCal Derby, and then I was working in Del Mar at the time, which is like North County, California, and so San Diego County.
Yeah.
So that's about 20 minutes from Oceanside, and Oceanside has a league called Hidden City, where I found some longtime seasoned officials. They had a weekly scrimmage, so once a week I'd just go up north and officiate with them, and I was skating at the SoCal practices, and so caught the just caught the bug and really dove in, full in 2013. And so started there. About 6 months later, we packed up and moved to Western Mass, where I joined Pioneer Valley Roller Derby.
Okay.
And so we were living in the Pioneer Valley. Again, because of professional and work situations, we had to move. So we moved over to Worcester. So I was a part of Worcester Roller Derby. And then, as leagues do, there was a whole exodus, and they had very much a rebuilding year. So I went and I joined Boston Roller Derby for a year in 2015. And then 2016, we moved out here, and we've been here ever since. So
this is your
so
longest.
20,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah. So there was a lot of moving around
Yeah.
early. But again, most of my officiating has been in the Northeast, New England, Canada, Eastern Canada, Quebec, Toronto. So yeah, that's sort of how I landed here. So when we were thinking about we knew we were going to be out here in the Finger Lakes, and so we were an hour from Rock, we were an hour from Syracuse, we were an hour from Ithaca, and I just said, well, I know where I'm going. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna go join the. Then we were called the 19th Wardens.
Yeah.
So
I still have a jacket.
So I said I want to go join the Wardens, and so that's what we did. So we've been members of Rock City Roller Derby since 2016.
The one thing people may, they definitely know is you have to be an athlete to be or skating official. You have to be able. How do you take to skating? I mean, was that something that it's as soon as you put your mind to it, you picked it up, or is it was it a long process to getting? You're a great skater, so. It's
well, I work a lot at it. I take a lot of pride in being able to keep up with the fastest jammers in the sport. That's what you have to do if you want to officiate at that highest level. You need to be able to keep up. But yeah, on how I as a kid would go to roller skating birthday parties or school events or whatever. So I had a little bit of, it wasn't nothing.
Sure.
I had a little bit of a foundation there, but sure, I skate like a guy who really learned how to skate after he turned 30. So I'm not like the prettiest skater out there, but I can get to where I need to be. But it's one of the things I tell people is the year that my officiating kind of took off was really the same year that I spent a lot of time on footwork and drills, and you can have the best officiating eyes around, but if you're not actually in the right position to see the things that you want to see, you might miss that call, right?
Yeah.
So I like to practice. I like to do the footwork along with the skaters,
Sure.
and so.
It's not like that you have so many skating officials that you can have a skating officials practice or something. You really.
I have attended a few, but those leagues are few and far between.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So
Yeah.
you have to go with the teams and learn. So that's great. I think were you into athletics at all before joining roller derby? Did you play sports in high school and college?
I played sports through elementary school and middle school.
Yeah.
I was a pretty good baseball player. I was terrible at basketball. I played a little bit of football, but I really switched in around middle school. I sort of made a conscious decision that I really wanted to concentrate on music. So I actually stopped playing sports in middle school, and really, I did high school band. I was drumming for a really long time, and so I just got really into music.
Oh, that's cool. Did you ever get the bug to maybe get back to it a little bit? Or?
This January.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? What happened? Do you have a band? Do you jam with some people?
No, not so much. Although there's a guy in town that I'll play with every now and then. But just decided it was time to jump back in, and bought myself an electric drum kit this January, and so that's been fun. That's been taking up a lot of time. Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. That's awesome. It's who knows? You could be the drumming rough. No. I see these guys in marching band with the drums around.
Oh, that's what I did in high school. I played the quads.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Very cool. It's like my kids were in marching band. I remember that a lot. That was pretty cool stuff. So, how long were you officiating before you decided to start putting in for tournaments and stuff?
Yeah. So I guess it was about 3 years till I started getting staffed at more serious tournaments. So I think my first tournament was in 2014. So once we moved to Massachusetts, it was like, oh yeah, there's this tournament down in Florida, Beach Brawl. So that was the first tournament that I went down there. I did that as an NSO. So started to meet people kind of right away. The officiating community is awesome, and so that's when I sort of caught that bug.
Sure.
And so from there, you try and find some of the more beginner level tournaments, the learnaments. There was a great tournament out of Worcester for a long time called All 8 on the Floor, which was explicitly an officials learning tournament where you got really in-depth coaching on every positions. They would put you in stretch positions. I remember being absolutely terrified that I had to head ref at one of these tournaments, and you just try and find the things that are going to help you grow. But yeah, I think it was around 2016 where there was that was the year that there was a WTA playoff in Montreal.
Okay.
And that weekend was coming up, and I just said, "Hey, Harlot, why don't we just get some tickets and we'll go up there?" And I remember this really clearly, right?
Take your skates?
No, definitely not. But like, there was a very clear moment where, that venue was great. All the seats were like slightly elevated, so you got really nice views down into the turns. And so, I was just up there like around turn 2 and just watching, and you go, "Oh, that looks like a multiplayer. Okay, well, there's a whistle, right?" And then, "Oh, there was a cut right there. Okay, that gets called too, right?" So like, you just start to see things, and that was when things started to really click. Like, oh, I think I might actually be able to do this at a higher level. And so that really prompted me to apply to playoffs the next year, which I was accepted to. That was the D2 playoff in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
That 3-track monster of a tournament.
Yeah, D2s. I was there.
Yeah,
I was there.
That was such a great event.
Oh my goodness.
And there were about 1 million people there too.
I know, and then they call it Litzberg, I believe. That's the nickname for it, because I wonder why. I had a great time. It was probably my favorite tournament I ever got. It's one of my first ones too. So as an announcer, so that was a blast. But there was so much going on. It was just crazy. I was wondering, so that's cool. So man, you've had quite a few since then,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how many, but I've done like 50 tournaments or something like that.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So that's all. I feel bad. I never really track what I've done, and I probably should have.
There's not like an announcer's game history.
There is, but I just didn't have it.
Okay. All right.
I'm bad at it. I can go back and I guess look at all the things I've done and then just write them down.
You can try and backfill it a little bit.
Yeah, because I know maybe someday it'll be like, oh, it's my 1000th game or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll ever happen. But
Where do you think you're at?
I have no idea. Right now, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say because I probably about maybe 30 games a year when I was peaking,
Yeah.
So maybe more. I don't know. Because can I count ECDX? Yeah, I can
Oh
count
yeah,
that.
for sure, 100%.
Yeah, because I would do like 3 games a day there, and I would come out with like 9 or 10 games at the end of the weekend.
Well, that's the benefit of those giant tournaments. Man, we have lost a couple of real gems out there, right? I'm thinking about ECDX and Brew Haha in Milwaukee and Big O out in Salem. I mean, these are massive multi-track, multi-day tournaments that are just gone. Nothing like that really exists anymore.
I was kind of hoping that Big O would come back because it was like I remember I really wanted to go the last year, maybe before when COVID killed everything. But it was, Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I maybe I think about it, but I've done a lot, so it's good, and it's like it's a lot of fun. But it's good that so what of all these tournaments and everything, I'm sure you've got like a highlight reel in your head from all of them. I know a lot of like whenever I talk to players and I ask them like what was like the some of the coolest things you remember from like your career so far, and they'll be like, I don't remember anything from the game I just played, So it's like, but I mean, there's got to be some stuff that you saw that was amazing, and all the times you were doing these tournaments.
For sure, right? The level of play at a lot of these playoff tournaments, like you've got just super athletes, right? But from an officiating standpoint, the things that stick with you are let's be honest, the ways that you messed up,
Oh, no.
you know, the mistakes. I definitely don't think about like an errant track cut call that I made at K-Cup in 2018. That's not a thing that just randomly pops into my head on a
Oh, no.
somewhat regular basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
so like there's all those things that like our brains just work a little bit differently
That's true.
that way. You know.
It's true. Like equipment failure that that happens in the middle of a jam or something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's like, oh, what is that? So I always wondered. I always ask people, it's like, but I mean, you've done some pretty high profile stuff. I mean, you've been, at the WFTDA championships, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've been to one in 2018.
2018. That was in Montreal.
That was New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I was thinking Montreal was the next year, maybe. I can't remember. It was like the last one before COVID.
Yeah, 2019 was Montreal.
Yeah, I went. I mean, I went to the one in Philadelphia. I did not work, but I went to.
Oh, the
it.
one in
So
Philly was fun too. I was there.
That was a blast.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
The first time the Hydro ever went to somebody outside the United States. It was a big deal. I think it was a real big deal then. So how you have a partner in that skates as well.
Yep.
How does that? That's a huge dynamic. It's like having being both doing different things and stuff.
Sure.
I mean, do you ever see each other? I'm guessing. There's got to be times when you guys are both going in different directions, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously at practice a little more than I am on a kind of weekly basis, But I mean, for home games, we're both going to the same venue, but we're obviously there to do different jobs, right? So you get to the venue, say, hey, good luck, and I'll see you at the end. I'll see you when your game is over, I think from a life perspective, it's not that difficult to really balance. I think the bigger challenge is that I'll go to more tournaments than the team will go to, right?
Yeah.
So she'll sometimes come with me if there's gonna be a lot of people that we know there, or was just at Cactus Cup a couple weeks back, and that's a big trip, and so you got to take time off work, and that's a little bit harder to do, right? So I'll typically do a little bit more tournament travel than she will, but it's fun to be. I think it's really fun to be involved in the same sport, but just in really different capacities,
True.
right? We get different levels of enjoyment out of the same thing, and so we're not stepping on each other's toes. We're not, joined at the hip the entire time either, right? So
I think I've seen you call a penalty against you.
100%.
Maybe it hasn't been in a scrimmage. Or
Yeah.
something, but yeah.
Oh.
That's true. It's true. It's interesting. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't carry over to the ride home or anything.
Oh, nothing. No. Nothing. I think there is one of the other benefits though. She's captain of the Rock City Rockstars this year, and has been captain in the past. But I think she's been around us officials just blabbering on about the rules for over dinners and things, and so she's very familiar with how we think about the rules, how we think about the game, and I think that can maybe help her diffuse some dynamics on the bench if there's a challenging game for one reason or another.
Sure, and that does happen on occasion. It does. People
Sure.
get a little hot about things sometimes.
It happens.
So So what does it bring? What's about roller derby brings you back? I mean, this is a volunteer sport. We all pay to play. We all pay for our insurance. We all got to do that and everything. I mean, what is the one thing that's like that keeps you is a reinforcer for bringing you back?
I mean, that's the easiest question you're going to ask me all day, and the answer is the people, right? The answer is always the people. The answer is the community, Post pandemic, I wasn't really sure how much I wanted to be involved. I knew I was going to be involved, but I wasn't sure at what level, like what sort of dedication level. I did a lot of traveling in 2018 and 2019. Those were, I think those were like between 80 and 90 game seasons for me. I was doing a lot of head reffing at that time, and got to crew headed playoffs during that time, and so just there was a lot of investment, a lot of personal investment before, so I wasn't really sure coming out, if I was gonna feel that same way. And I remember, I think it was 23. I was down at Tiny Tourney in Atlanta, and just like it hit me, it's just like, I'm back. Like this is why I do this, right? And it's getting to see people who you don't see in a while. I think people maybe aren't aware or underestimate like just how wide some of these officiating networks are, right? And so even, I don't do a lot of derby down south, but going and seeing a bunch of officials who are mid-Atlantic or south who will travel north and just get to, see people again, work with them, work with, some high level officials. It's a great feeling, and that camaraderie just instantly drew me back in.
That's cool. That's how I feel about it too, as well. And it's like when I first started, I would see a lot of different people, and then it's like, but then maybe like 5 years later, I would still see some of these people, and it's like, it's like, wow, these the people that have traveled here to help out and stuff like that. So speaking of COVID, but for a second, we had the world shut down. A lot of people decided to take a break at that point. They're like, this is a big commitment and everything, and I've really put my heart into it, and it's like, and some people didn't come back, and it's so you came back, you kind of, it sounds like it wasn't like the full steam ahead like you had before, but
no, it really wasn't. When I sort of had to convince myself to get back to that level. I mean, this season I am like again, this is like the same season as 2019, where I've got 8 or 9 different tournaments. We're traveling all over. I've already been out west twice this season, and so safe to say I'm like back in with both feet.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, that sounds like. And, do you remember like when the world did shut down and everything? I just remember kind of well, just because Rock City was about to go to Pittsburgh, I think, for a game, and it was like, we're not sure if we're going because everything's closing, and it was real disheartening.
We had a. I was really proud of the crew that we put together for Rock City's last game before shutdown was on Leap Day.
Yeah, that's right.
Leap Day 2020, and I put out a call to a bunch of friends and got people to come up. I think our officiating crew had like 4,500 games combined, something like that. Like at least on the skating side, and so it was great. It was again a lot of fun to work with folks. But I was in Boston getting ready to go to Lobster Roll, and my job at that time was in Boston, and they just said, everybody go home. And Boston said, if the NBA's not on, we're not on either. So they just sent everybody home, and
there were just so many question marks about what was going on that nobody really could answer.
For sure. And then we sort of. There's another group of officials that I'm a part of, and it's sort of a more informal group, and we would do the weekly Zoom calls and drinks over Zoom, and we would watch some movies. We would sometimes do footage, but like even then we were like, well, when's this going to come back? We're not really sure, So it's the same thing everybody else was doing, making bread and drinking too many cocktails, and
doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when it came back, it was just kind of came back very slow. It really took, a long time, to get back to speed.
I mean, there's a good argument to be made here, at least in Rochester, right? We're now sort of really finally turning the corner. I think the past couple seasons, we've had some new members, and we've had some vets drop out, and like we couldn't really gain a lot of momentum. I feel like finally we've got some wheels turning now, and it feels more like what it was in 2018, 2019.
I was going to say, I think that Rock City did it right by heavily recruiting as soon as we got back to it, just...
Tried,
and having people stick with the recruiting, and it worked, training all the new skaters and everything.
For sure.
And it took a few years, and they are coming into their own now, which is pretty cool. And the derby world is moving forward, and it's right now. It's like I said, it's back. I'm not gonna say it's exactly back, but it's pretty busy right now.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I'm sure you could probably be skate roughing anywhere, any weekend.
Just about. Yeah. I mean, and that's also. I mean, sadly, that's a function of the fact that like we also just don't have as many officials as we did back then. So there's more. There were always the like. Hey, the desperation, last second, hey, we need 1 or 2 refs, that sort of thing. And now it's like, hey, we need half a crew for this game. Can anybody help out, right? So there's definitely been an impact on the size of the officiating community, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think of like you mentioned the wardens, earlier, and it's like that group, we significantly shrunk. after COVID, during COVID?
Yeah, definitely. The rock officiating crew is definitely not numbers wise where I think we would like to be. It's hard for me personally because I live about an hour outside of Rochester, right? So I'm happy to come in and help train folks, but I can't really do a lot on the recruiting side of things. So that's a tough position for me to be in personally.
Yeah, when I first started, I'll give you a brief history of me very quickly. So when I first started, I was recruited. I did a radio show, and I would bring the skaters on, and we would promote events and stuff. And they said, "Hey, would you like to announce?" And it's like, I'm kind of interested. So it's like, and I went to 3 months of practices, and I learned how the sport was, how it went, because it's like, I don't think you get it immediately when you're watching the first time. It's like, and so it's why, as an announcer, it's why I try to work that stuff in, because I always kind of do a little survey before we start the game. It's like, how many people here have never seen roller derby before? And then if I see a lot of hands go up, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to add in some things,
right.
Like what the pivot, it's hard to explain that, or if you don't, if someone doesn't explain it, you're like, why? Okay, so never.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same reason why we, when we have boot campers who graduate, when I really like to bring them into the center and just say, hey, just watch, and then ask any questions that you might have. And I think that's, it's a little bit more intimate than watching from outside when the team benches are, going and you're not really a part of that yet. And so, again, I like to be kind of as welcoming to any of the new people as possible.
Yeah.
But, having somebody right there who can help you understand, as you're watching the game, okay, what happened there, right? And they can tell you why and what the strategy was. And just having that kind of support system really helps draw you in.
You're very good at that, too. I see you do that all the time, and you're very, very good at that.
I appreciate that. I really want to be as welcoming as possible, both to, anybody who wants to learn how to officiate, and it's also a great way for new boot campers. They go through Quarry, right? All these new skaters, they don't often always know what the game of roller derby looks like, right? And so they might have some sense because they've seen something on TV or they've seen something online, but they've never sat down and watched the whole game. And so it's a little wild to me that some of these folks sign up to play the sport. They've never actually watched a whole game. But but again, I want to try and be as gracious as possible and welcome people in. I really think just standing there in the middle and watching all of this organized chaos go on around you is really addicting.
Yeah, I will say that. So to continue my story just for a little bit.
Sure.
One time I was there to observe, and they had maybe 1 or 2 NSOs, and it's like, I think I got the scoring down now. Why don't you let me teach me NSOing? And so I started learning NSOing, and that's how I became a part of the Wardens then. So and then and it was great, and I enjoyed it. And it's like I think I've done a couple. I do more announcing. That's what I prefer to, obviously. But I remember going to Toronto, and I was a scorekeeper, and I've done travel around and done some sewing, especially when there was a need. So I definitely could do that without.
There's always a need. I always appreciate it when I see you in the penalty box. You've done some penalty timing and some scorekeeping at the same time. That's always fun.
Yeah,
I enjoy that.
It's funny is I remember it just brings me back to when we were in the old room over at the House of Brews, and I had some new skaters coming to the penalty box, and they didn't know what the penalty was or what they did in the penalty, and so it was interesting. They didn't understand it. It's because they didn't really realize the rules. And so we get a lot of skaters who do graduate boot camp, and then they're just thrown into it, and it's like, okay, we're out there now, and it's like, now we got. So you're really good at that too, and then I think you're explaining to what people did wrong, and it's like I was trying to tell someone in the penalty box what they did. They go, "What's this mean?" Or something.
Yeah.
They give you the cut symbol and stuff. But yeah, it's a regrowth process as well. We used to recruit for the Wardens, and we used to have a fundraiser and stuff, and it's been a while since then, just because
Yeah, sure has.
It has been. It's been.
Yeah.
I remember going to a bowling tournament or something like that. But very cool. So you're in your peak right now again. It's like, what's your future?
Thank you.
What's your future like?
12 years in.
Yeah, 12 years in. But I mean, you know what? You're well respected. Obviously, what do you got coming up too?
So there's a busy season coming up here. So just did Clover Cup and Cactus Cup a few weeks back. Next up at the end of this month, I'm a tournament head for Lobster Roll along with a really strong group of other tournament heads. And then in June, there's a tournament in Lower Ontario that I'll be a part of, and then shortly after that we head off to Austria for World Cup, and then after we get back from World Cup, just recently on Facebook it was announced I'll be a crew head for the new Among the Thorns tournament that's hosted by Black Rose Rollers. So should be a bunch of really, really great tournaments, really strong competition. Should be a great rest of the season.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, you just told me before we went on the air that you're actually going to be in India and for 2.5 weeks.
Yes. In a couple weeks, I'll be in India before I land for lobster roll. So that'll be an interesting week for sure.
So you're all over the world there.
A little bit. It happens.
So when you go to Innsbruck, do you have like some plan? I mean, obviously it's 4 days.
Yeah.
I mean, and the numbers are amazing. The crew, I can't wait to see the picture of everybody because it's going to be like
Oh, it's going to be like a whole stadium section,
Yeah.
just like full of officials, right? Yeah. Look, Austria's going to be great. There's a whole lot about that tournament that I don't know yet. But I think there's like 50 some teams. You might have the printout. There's over 100 officials.
Yeah.
There's 50 some teams. There's I think we're going to end up in a 9 officiating crew rotation, which is wild.
Yeah.
Just wild. Nine crews. I think there's 5 tracks.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's going to be just like a tremendous amount of really good roller derby. I'm so looking forward to it. So,
I was gonna say this is the first World Cup since 2018. It's the 3rd World Cup we've done in WFT and women's roller derby.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So this is the 4th one. This is the 4th one. So it's crazy. It was supposed to happen. I guess 22, I think it was, but
probably.
Yeah, the world was shut down.
Yeah.
So, but so you have any plans to like visit Europe while you're there? Maybe do
Yeah, we're flying into Vienna. We're gonna spend a few days in Vienna with some friends, and then we'll train it over to Innsbruck. We haven't quite figured out what we're gonna do afterwards because we've got like a total of 2 weeks. So I think we're going to end up with 3 or 4 days on the other side of the tournament that we have unaccounted for at the moment. So, in fact, what we've decided to do is we're each going to put together a pitch. So we're gonna independently put together travel plans for those last 3 days, and then whoever has the better pitch, that's where we're gonna go.
I mean, you can
And
go, right? Yeah.
we've done that before too. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's it's a fun way to kind of figure out what your vacation strategy is gonna be.
That's very cool. I was gonna
Yeah.
say anywhere in a day you can probably go to any country in Europe.
There's a ton of them, right? Italy's right there. You're right by Munich. Like there's so much that you can see. Like the space of possibilities is enormous.
I would ask you who you think's going to win it all, but I can't do that. You're an unbiased official. But I mean,
I am rooting for good competitive roller derby.
yeah, we as the years go by, it evens up. It gets closer to so the better teams show up, and so who knows? I mean, the United States has won all 3 so far.
I think that I think we're definitely going to see some surprises. I think that relative to the previous World Cup in 2018, if you just look at the teams that have been at WFTDA playoffs, you see a lot more European representation these days.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see, especially France, I think is going to be really strong. So there's definitely going to be a rebalancing of sort of how those things rank. So I don't have a clue how it's going to shake out, but I'm there for it.
Well, it's funny is during the WFTDA championships last year and MRDA championships, it's like, well, I think maybe everyone's caught up, and then we got the same winners who did won it in the year before COVID happened. So
yeah,
but
true.
But there was some good performances by teams nobody expected. So
absolutely
yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean the top end of the sport is a little heavy at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, those spots 3 through 10 are really up for grabs.
That's cool. You're going to see the best derby possible on the track, which is really awesome. I mean, yeah, there'll be some blowout games. It does happen in the World Cup,
Sure.
with 50 different countries coming.
Happens
and
down the
representing.
street, so
It does. It happens
yeah.
everywhere. So it's that's really cool. So, do you have an exit strategy from roller derby? I mean, have you ever thought about, it's like,
Well, there's an old joke that is, you get to hang up your stripes once you officiate a perfect game. So I'm about 550 in. That hasn't happened yet. So I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon.
that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
you'll be doing it until the wheels fall off, as Schramm says,
I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm a lifer, but no, I'll be around for a little bit longer.
You've
for
never
sure.
had any significant injuries, have you?
I've had one roller derby injury,
Yeah.
and that was I dislocated my shoulder in a game in the second game of the tournament for me, but the first one I was actually skating in because I was an alt.
Uh-huh.
So about 90 seconds into my skating tournament, I dislocated my left shoulder and got sent to the emergency room.
Oh no! Was
Yeah.
it a collision outside, or was it?
No, it was ref to ref action there.
Oh.
Yeah, my legs my feet got taken out. I was jam reffing, my feet got taken out from under me, and I just landed completely prone right on my chest, and my left shoulder just noped out. The funnier part of that story is my jammer was lead at the time, and of course, they're on a scoring pass.
Yeah.
And so I fall, and the first thing you have to do is you have to get up and you have to recover.
Yeah.
So I get up, I recover, figure out, they've exited the pack, they're going to get their full slate of 4 points.
Yeah.
And I go to raise up points because points happen on your left hand.
Oh.
And it was just like, no, my arm's not moving in that way anymore. So I had to signal points from
Oh, no.
my hips, and my scorekeeper just looked at me and went, just gave me, the like, what are you doing eyes. And so that jam ended, and I skated over to the medics and said, hey, I dislocated my shoulder. And there was like one person there, and they said, oh, there's somebody on the bench was injured. And I was like, no, that was me. So I had to go skate around to get to the medics. So,
Oh, no.
yeah, the coda to that is they wanted to cut my stripes off at the emergency room, and I said absolutely not. I've got all my patches. This,
Sure.
it's like $100 worth of stuff, and they said, okay, well, we're going to strap you in, and so they did. Just strap me right in, and I ended up going to the venue the next day in my stripes.
Oh man, how long did
Yeah.
it take to recover from that?
That was about 8 weeks.
Was it?
Yeah.
I saw one happen in a game where a jammer collided with a defender where that happened, and it was like shoulder to like knee or something. It was a tough one.
It's rough, man. It's a rough injury for sure.
Very cool. Well, I feel very honored to have you here. You're such, you're so well respected by everybody in roller derby as well as officiating, and obviously
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you got a bunch of stuff coming up now. We do have MRDA playoffs this year. We're not going to have WFTDA playoffs.
That's
year.
right. Yeah, the playoff cycle for WFTDA is next year with champs happening in Malmo. That'll be very interesting. That'll be the first champs outside North America. So very excited for that.
Yeah, they are awesome.
Yeah.
I've met them when that team was came to Utica or Ithaca a couple of years ago.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So that's cool. So I know. What do you think? Let's get your opinion. What do you think about a lot of the best female players from WFTDA going to MRDA teams, because there's a playoff this year for MRDA, but not for WFTDA.
I mean, if you're a person who wants to get more derby in and you can compete at that level, like, by all means, go for it.
You might win a championship with MRDA.
For
too,
sure.
Yeah. I almost saw a skater win with both teams this past year.
I do think that's one of the, the gender expansive policy of the MRDA, I think, is fantastic, and it allows anybody who wants to play can play, and, it's welcoming to everybody. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I hate to. I don't even want to talk about stuff about going on in our country now with, or in other places as well. So, but man, I'm so happy you're here. We're going to go to break, come back, and do some news. But I thank you so much for being here with me. It was great conversation. We don't, it's fun. I got to ask all the questions for once, so it doesn't happen often. But
yeah,
it's like,
thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate you came an hour too. You drove an hour away from here. So.
It's fine. I'm used to that. Like, I'll I'll go any direction an hour, no
I
problem.
appreciate that. We're going to have a break. You're listening to Derby Rocks on 106.3 FM WRFZ. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Derby Rocks. I'm Cashman. I am joined by Dred Ockley from everywhere in the world because he is a incredible referee. And we're going to do some news right now. Deet to deet to deet to deet. It's time for the news. You know, yes, it's the old deet to deets. We have some closest bouts from last week from WFTDA. We had a Toulouse beating Rainy City 129 to 125. 4-point game, man. Those are the ones that caused the heart attacks. They're the ones that definitely caused the heart attacks. We had Philly 149 losing to Minnesota 160. Another 11-point game, another heart attacker. Brew City beating North Star 99 to 84. I see a lot of these defensive struggles, and then I see like the high-scoring games. But that when you don't break 100 on either side, it's like that's a tough hitter.
That's like a rugby game.
Yeah, big time. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of stalling, a lot of not getting points. So Hammer City 171 over Traverse City 154, and then we had Rainy City beating London 160 to 136. Most of those were the biggest upsets, but we had South Bend beating Cornfed 170 to 113. That was considered the biggest upset of the week. Also, Black Rose Rollers 211 over Steel City 87. I'm surprised, you know, but that's a huge upset too as well. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Minnesota beating Philly. And we also had Charlotte beating Greenville 216 to 131. Games this weekend going on. We have Sun State at Perth. It looks like we got a tournament down in Australia this weekend. Pirate City at Sydney. Perth at Ads. And Perth at Brisbane. A lot of games. Those are the games to watch as well this weekend. Last weekend in the MRDA, we had we had one game as far as I know. There probably was more than that, but I just unfortunately did not show up. I use flat track stats. Okay, listen, everybody you know who follows the show know I go to the flat track stats, and if they're in there, I'll talk about them. But we had Cleveland Guardians losing to Toronto. It was the closest bout, as well as both of those teams were the biggest movers because it's the only game that they had on the listing. So. But, yeah.
What was the score of that one?
I don't know. It was 257 points between them, and I know Cleveland scored 37. So if you add 37 to 257, that's what Toronto got. So
Great. The math exercise is left to the rear.
Yeah, there
For
we
the
go.
listener.
Sometimes I don't like to talk about them when they're like huge numbers.
I got you.
Differences.
Sorry
So
about that.
That's okay. We got Salt City home opener this weekend. That's right. It's May 3rd at the Fulton County Ice Arena.
I'll see you there.
It's going to be Spuds versus the Riggies.
Yes.
Tickets are available for purchase now, $15. Limited amount will be available at the door. Kids under 12 are free. That's what I always thought was a great deal. Kids under 12 are free. That's a sweet deal because, man, there's a lot of places that you have to be 7 and younger. This is 12 and under, so that's a good deal. Doors are at 3 o'clock. The first game starts at 4. Bring a chair or a blanket to sit on, as bleacher seating is limited. And they're going to be offering merchandise and food sales there as well. Also this weekend, I love it, Gem City Roller Derby has a doubleheader on May the 4th, and it's like, obviously May the 4th be with you. Come see Dayton's Violent Femmes take on South Bend's All-Stars. The Lavender Haze, they play at Ohio Valley Derby on May the 4th, this Sunday. They're having a May the 4th doubleheader bout at 5 p.m. and 7. That's a Sunday night, too. That's kind of weird to have a game on Sunday night. But you know what? I don't have a problem with it. Sunday's perfect. We can do that, too. Being it's May the 4th, may the Force be with our gems during the Star Wars themed event. Attendees are welcome to lean into the theme. So what they're saying is maybe you want to dress up a little bit. I don't know. I think, you know what? I would definitely, I'm a Star Wars fan. I definitely could get into that. That's for sure. We have a Royal City's home opener. They're playing at the Victoria Road Rec Center at 3:30. Royal City Roller Derby's kicking off the season. Their A-team plays they have 2 games going on. The home team plays at 4, and the A-team is at 6:15. Tickets are $15, and kids under 12 are free. And you can also join, also going on this weekend, join the Cherry City Roller Derby and their Cherry Blossoms All-Star at the annual Pedal to the Metal Junior Roller Derby Tournament. 2 action-packed days featuring teams, junior teams, obviously, our favorite junior roller derby, our favorite juniors tournament. It's kind of harder. I should probably read them before I do it. 8 leagues from 4 states, 11 teams, and 11 games over 2 days. You can see some of the greatest young skaters that will be taking over the adult world, I'm sure, when they age out. This is in Salem, Oregon. You got just some great teams, the Grom Shells versus Rocz, Brawl Stars versus Los Anarchists, Southside versus Assault, Misfits versus Fridays. These are all the teams. You got the Brawl Stars from the Cherry Blossoms, All Stars as well. Freaky Friday from Santa Cruz, the Grom Shells from Santa Cruz. Well, I believe we're in town here when we had the juniors tournament here a couple of years ago. Los Anarchos, Miners from Diamond City, Misfits from Mob City, Rose City Rollers, Southside Revolution, Wheat Whackers, Coyote County Roller Derby. They've got some great names. And the Wasatch Assault Junior Roller Derby. So you want to check them out. I'm sure you probably could go online and find maybe you could find a stream of that. But Rock City Roller Derby's got their games coming up. We're going to be hitting them as we get closer, as well as Flower City Fear playing a home game with the juniors May 31st here in Rochester. On that note, I've talked too long. We got to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. Thank you so much, Fred, man. I appreciate it, man. You're awesome.
Thanks, Cash. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you. And George is up next, so we'll see you next week, folks.